My artist way morning page. Let's do that again. I'm doing my morning pages. Yes. I don't know why I feel like doing it with this and seeing what happens, because maybe I just need an accountability buddy. I'm on week am I on 4? It feels like week 4, but I'm on week 3 on day 6. And it's been tough, but we're here. Just allowing the stream of it's so difficult because I am not used to, I feel like vocal expression is where I want to go, but something about doing it on paper is, yeah, so let's just do it together. Should put some music on. Or maybe not. I just feel like I'll do it in silence today. Oh, my nose is being weird. Last page. These kinds of things can't be put into words, right? Like my happy dance. Just having a little happy dance because I'm finally on page 3. Oh my gosh. I have no idea what does yet, but no, it is. Okay. She did it. So I wanted to go live on TikTok this morning, but I'm gonna go live after I do this video. Yes. I'm gonna go pick out some headshots from my 4th attempt at commercially usable headshots. Yes. And a lot of it, I don't know, you know, I'm still looking. And I'm still looking for the right representation. Honestly, I have agents that I work with in Singapore for like corporate shoots, for short films even. And I've gone through the whole like backstage actors access, casting calls, whatever, you know. However, none of these people, yeah, I mean, at the same time, the visa that I want to be on is a self-petition visa. And based on my tech background, I am already qualified. But I deactivated my LinkedIn. Let's get into it. I don't know why I feel like talking about that today, but let's do it. So welcome back to my vlog on embracing my life as an actor and coming out of the proverbial creative closet. She's here. You know what's so funny? It was easier for me to say, you know, I'm a pen than it is to say I'm an actor. How weird is that? It's kind of sad. And I felt that feeling. So let's act from and through that space. So in the last video I uploaded to YouTube, I talked about some of my story and how I got to this point in 2022 when I was like, no, I'm an actor and I'm going to live my life. Live, you know? And so what did I do? I started being like, I'll build the path. I'll do the work. I will make it happen. And I think in the tech startup industry, there's a lot of this energy that fuels this sort of momentum, which is a very valid form of creation, you know. Reagan Hillier calls it manufactured manifestation to a certain extent, yes. And I did her course in the art of manifesting. I really like it. She calls it soul aligned manifestation or inspired. I think that's the word she used. Don't quote me on that. It's on Mind Valley. Thanks, Mama. Thank you to my mother, who is a lifelong learner too, and the embodiment of someone who just loves to learn, you know? My mama is a tech auntie, is what some people call her, okay? Because I'm not gonna say how old she is, but when you actually, her energy, oh my goodness, she feels very young, she looks very young, and she is on the phones, you know, she's on the trading apps, she's on the like internet, she's an active participant. She's my best friend in London, he called her a Chad. Jokingly, he asked her, "Are you a Chad?" That's how aware and how much of a lifelong learner she is. So props to her for sponsoring my access to this Reagan Hillier course on Mind Valley. But here's what I learned, okay? Because I was in this space of like very outside in. Like, okay, we define the shell. We write the requirements. What do we want? What is a must have, can't have, you know, Moscow, like must have, should have, can't. Is it can or can't? See, it's been a while. I literally was looking at it last night, but I'm so tired right now. And won't have. Can have and won't have. You know, things that you must have, should have, can have, and won't have. And, wow, she's still tired. And then you fill it out, and then you build the app, right? And a lot of people can go, you know, I think it's a very fun, like valid form, you know, when I'm surrounded by the right team and aligned with that energy, it can be very sustainable in a way. It can be very, well, it depends on how you sustain it. That is the big question, right? That is kind of the big question facing all of the tech industry now, is sustainability. And for example, I only recently found out that ChatGPT or OpenAI, they decided to create this closed loop condensation system for the water that's used to like cool down the servers. Well, not really the servers, but cool down the environment that the servers are kept in, because it overheats a lot, right? It takes up a lot of energy. So they started using like a closed loop system so that the water that's used to cool down these servers like evaporates, and that evaporated water vapor is collected back and then used to cool down the servers again. Fun fact of the day. And so yes, I built an entire career in London on this kind of knowledge and expertise. And 2024, maybe, was it 2024? I decided to nuke it a little bit. Well, I soft nuked it. I deactivated my LinkedIn. I just went like hermit mode, full on. I was like, and I did that across my social media as well, to be honest. Did it with my Facebook way earlier. I was having issues personally with some of the way that my data was being used on Facebook. Because it's really like, it started as a high school, college yearbook brought to life. That's how it started. It was a college networking app. And then now it's become this huge advertising and media mogul. Which I have to say, probably was not what he thought of doing in the first place. I don't know. He probably iterated and then found all these ways to figure it out, right? So that one was pretty easy for me. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to private everything I think that I can. I wanted to delete it, but then, you know, I deactivated it for a while, and then I reactivated it and just spent time slowly, manually editing the settings on my posts or just deleting them. I was like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this anymore. It just doesn't resonate with me. And it was exhausting. Facebook does not make it easy to do that. It's either all or nothing. Where is the bulk control? I don't know whether it's there now. Actually, maybe that is something, Mr. Mark, you can implement. Give me more specific privacy controls over each of my posts and all of my history on my Facebook profile. Thank you very much. I don't know. I think I can see an interface for it. I think it actually should be pretty easy. I mean, there's a lot of data there. There's so much data, and if Meta is already parsing through all of my information, then as a user, I should be able to have control over it. I write and give really specific bug reports and feature requests as a customer of any app. Even like, I'm laughing because I do it when I'm gaming, okay? Even when I'm trying to relax and enjoy life. If something is not like making sense technically for me, I will message customer service and ask. I will write in. I'll be like, this is how it should work. You have a real, or I'll be like, you have a serious flaw in your design here. Why? 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 Please, you know, I bought this game. I'm a paying customer. I am allowed to have opinions, and I'm qualified to give you feedback. So, at the risk of becoming a beta tester as my second life career, you know, I think that's why I deactivated my LinkedIn. So, I think in the earlier stages of my life, coming out of, well, going into university, coming out of it, going into mid-career, I think that is pretty much the amount of time that I spent in the technology industry in London, in startups, and I loaned my energy vessel. I mean, I was hired by these people or you know, I was part of the team that received the investment initially. And so I felt a sense of duty and obligation and responsibility, and made things happen. And as I got more, yes, accomplishments and achievements on paper and built that career up more, I was not nurturing my inner artist anymore. I didn't know how to make it happen. And my inner artist reminded me of something I talked about in my last video. How when I was a child, I had already known that acting was my thing. Like, acting is my chosen career and profession. It's my path. And so I deactivated my LinkedIn in 2023, 2024. After, like, my LinkedIn was so good. I was receiving so much positive connections and network, resume, all of it was, yeah, what I needed at the time. And I think I am talking about this now because I know it's time for me to reactivate it soon. Here's why I deactivated it. Because I got to this point where, in my last video, I talked about how I knew for about 6 months before I really committed to being an actor when I was in Singapore. And I recommitted and I renewed my vows. Okay, yeah, she's married to acting in a soulful way, not romantically. No, I don't romanticize it that way. I do believe that I'm meant to have a life partner. You know, I have life balance now. But in sort of the sense of my legacy and my vision and my purpose and my life path, I renewed my vows, I guess, in October 2022. But about 6 months before that, and actually 2 years before this, I had this feeling, you know, I just knew something in me, deep in my gut, was like, Diana, this is the last role you will be taking on as a technologist as your primary profession. You know, I was like, oh my goodness, is this it? Is this the one I'm committing to? Okay. Naively. 6 months before I renewed my vows to my acting career, my gut was like, okay, it's time. You need to start preparing. It's time for change. She was so young and naive. She was a CTO at 24, 25. Okay, a co-founding CTO. You know, Jackson Wang has this song about how he was a CEO at 20 something. But this girl, she was a CTO, okay, Chief Technology Officer at 25 or 24. Wild. So Mulan. So Mulan. Okay. And so life was gonna take me for a spin, basically, and it did. So I renewed my vows. I established a private limited company in Singapore, which is pretty easy actually. These days it's really easy to incorporate anywhere in a major city. Yes, and because I had done that in startups before, I was like, okay, this is normal for me. And also I discovered later on that a lot of independent film producers and studio-backed films use these legal, like LLC structures to manage the finances and do residuals and royalties and things like that. So they put the entity, the intellectual property, the script, and all its associated media is owned by this LLC. And that's the sort of the steward of the finances. Bonus tip. Something I learned. And from a startup perspective, I'm kind of like sitting there like, is that truly I have my own question marks over certain details of this approach. However, I know a lot of people do it and it does work for a lot of them, so good for them. But it is to sort of illustrate that I came into this industry very prepared and with the business background and preparation. And maybe that's also part of the reason why it's so hard for me to like find the aligned representation for me, because I can see through a lot of things on contracts. Like, for example, if something is just for exposure but there's no real resonance, there's no like there's not a real valid reason why something should just be for exposure. I can see through that, I think, with time. You know, I've developed the experience. I mean, I think it is the experience. Like, I've tasted the bitter pill. I've observed many people drink the Kool-Aid in the tech industry. And I left the industry and took a break from it, like a real sabbatical from it, maybe like a year before the layoffs, the mass layoffs. So I knew a lot of things behind the scenes from a business perspective, which are these called trade secrets? I don't know. But this is why I deactivated my LinkedIn, because I didn't know that I was gonna take a sabbatical from this industry. I just knew I'm gonna be an actor, full stop. I thought, okay, I'm gonna transition into part-time and do, like, you know, just reduce my hours, pay my bills, fund my films. You know, I thought I was gonna do that path, which is what a lot of creative people do. And it's a very viable path. You know, if I was an American citizen, I can totally understand. Like, I have friends who are doing that now, and you know, good for them. Kudos on them, you know? Water finds its level. Nature has its own course. The fluff. I don't know if you can see this. My fleece blanket is still on my clothes and it's bothering my lashes. Why? Okay, I'm kind of glad I didn't do anything to them recently, because that would have been another thing. So that was sort of my plan, actually. I was like, okay, well, I need a safety net. I have obligations, I have responsibilities, I have things to do that, you know. But mind you, we were coming out of the pandemic in Singapore. And I was overqualified for a lot of tech roles in Singapore. So I incorporated bronze mirror. And gosh, to this day, it's so difficult to meet someone who can see what I'm seeing for it. Not because of them, but because of the unique position and experience I've had living and working in the UK, having contacts and, you know, network in Silicon Valley, and coming back to Singapore and being like, actually, most of y'all are Series B investors. I'm in a country of late stage investors. That's the kind of investors who will take you from Series A to IPO. That's the Singaporean venture capital market. So yeah, I explored the options for what they call them, accelerators in Singapore, in Asia. And yes, I mean, we have Grab, which was Malaysian, and then became Singaporean through, like I said, late stage and Series B investors. And then there was a whole drama of the crypto. Yes, oh my goodness. The crypto drama season. So I sat there, incorporated studio to automate studios. You know? Like, I came here to LA in 2023, and people were talking about things that I knew I wanted to do in they were debating things. Like, all this, like, replacing actors with AI, people getting background actors to sign their rights to their image so that their image can be used in the generation of AI, art. All of these things, right? But in 2022, I was like, why are we not automating the studio's work? That's what tech is for. Like, I use ChatGPT to summarize things. I'm like, okay, summarize all of this legal information for me. Thank you very much. Here's another thing I did. Summarize all of my astrological birth charts, including my 八字, my human design, my sidereal, my Vedic, both this one and the Southern Indian Vedic. Summarize it, and how does it all integrate? What can I learn from each of these, and how are they different, and how do they align? And it did that. It took all of the information and research, and it compiled it and summarized it for me, right? Here's something that it did try to do for me. It was like, oh, would you like me to generate some monologues for you to help you move through something? I was asking it a little bit about, like, okay, based on the human psychology and information online, like, and this help me understand this human design system thing. Okay, if humans spent so much time investing in trying to design a system to understand energy and how we co-create and coexist as human beings, what can I want to learn, I want to understand, I want to know the metaphors, I want to see what is being seen, right? So then it was like, this is a monologue for you to, like, help you work through some of this stuff emotionally. And I was like, I read it, I was like, good attempt. It was a very good suggestion. And I think that is kind of, one of the beauties of this tool. It's a good, like, accountability buddy, but it's not ever going to replace a creative human. So, because human inspiration is spiritual, and this NLP processing system, these not natural, yes, it is natural language, not neuro-linguistic programming. I'm talking about natural language. Am I getting the words mixed up? Oh my goodness, I'm so excited right now. She's on a flow. Natural language processing. Neuro-linguistic programming, yes. It's not, one is for a psychological tool that has to do with words. Natural language processing is the version of a quote-unquote AI and machine learning that we are talking about when we talk about ChatGPT, basically. And that's what it's doing. It's processing natural language. Natural languages. And it's converting them and doing the research, and it's compiling them. So it's going to be a good editor in a way. It's going to be a good summarizer. It's not going to be the same as a human editor, because if you want other humans to feel and resonate with a human, with a creative piece of work, there needs to be a human input. And as a creative person, I get inspired from spirit, from the source of all things, from my connection with source, right? And this version of AI gets inspired from humans. And it's inspired by past works like of Shakespeare, of Ibsen, of Chekhov, right? It trains on all of these human creations. And in terms of a real energetic source, we're talking about machines that are charged by energy, like charged by manufactured energy, as opposed to inspired energy and soul-led energy. Anyway, circling back, it does feed in. So how does this all feed in to what I'm saying? So yes, I got to this point where and I think this is sort of an illustration of why it's so difficult for me right now, and has been to this date, for me to meet another mind that sees the whole picture. Because in Singapore, they're like, oh, are you starting a production company? You know, everyone's asking me, is this a production company? And I'm like, it's more than that. It's more than that. It's a studio that will automate studios, the work of studios. Like, even if I do have accountants and people working as on the production team that are scheduling and everything, surely the creative work for them and the reason why they want to be with creatives is, okay, to solve problems that machines can't systematically order for them, right? So I really don't think that a budgeter or a scheduler is going to sit down and be like, yes, I want to spend 12 hours of my day typing out all the things that need to be done and scheduled and putting them in a list. They want to be like, okay, give me the list, give me the order that you have, let's rearrange it, let's make sure everyone can come, let's make sure all of these things are there. And if we can use machines to do that collecting of data and just putting it in some order, the human can actually be creative and do the magic, do the work, you know? Because they're gonna be the ones on the ground in person actually seeing like, oh no, this actor, she's going through something today. She really needs another 30 minutes to feel her feelings so that she can get grounded and then bring out the work, right? That's what a production assistant will see in real life. That can never be automated. Not really. It can, you know, and even if we have these like medical robots helping doctors with like collecting data on like how people are appearing in their state and their 状态, right? Their 状态 is so much more than just state. It's everything about how you are in this moment. You still need a doctor. So, not to say that these two roles are similar, but in the same way as how a doctor that is assisted by a medical robot can make more informed decisions, a production assistant who is informed by a schedule that was collated and put together by a program that was created to assemble the information and summarize the information and put it in an order, it's just going to be so much more free to live and embrace the art. So that it is this sort of mindset and this sort of concept that I'm coming to, that I went to creating Bronze Mirror with in 2022, right? And you know, I thought, okay, I'm going to transition out of this industry slowly and then really like gradually ramp up this company as an entity that just encapsulates my work. Life did not work out that way for me. Yeah. So, what happened? I got to a point when I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep posting on LinkedIn. I'm literally I'm bootstrapping this company. I'm bootstrapping this grand vision. And then I come here and I realize people are still going on strike to debate these things and whether these things should be protected by law, and and because their training and their experience is in the craft and the art, like, who am I to tell them that as a technologist who is an artist, whose primary duty and responsibility in my profession is to be an artist? Like, who am I to say, like, don't feel your feelings and have this event and go through this chapter? So I kind of decided to take a back seat and observe, okay? And I just realized, okay, wow, I'm talking on a different wavelength. I have all this vocabulary and jargon and language that I'm saying something completely different from what they're saying when they say these, when they look at this from their perspective, because I've had the training and the experience professionally to know the ins and out of this thing. And I'm here not to fall into that again, of where I'm a technologist first and then an actor second. Like, I'm here as an actor. I came on a scholarship to an acting conservatory. I bet on myself. I took the leap of faith and saw myself. When the rest of the world couldn't understand why I would make such a change. And I got to this point where I was like, okay, writing on LinkedIn is not going to get me there. These things that I'm doing from a business perspective is not going to get me to where I need. It was manufactured manifesting. It was very outside in. And what I need to do is go from the inside out. I'm gonna draw. Yes, I'm gonna draw. Okay. Is it a good drawing? I don't know, but let's just give it a shot. It's very basic. That's all I drew. Why is, oh my goodness, the minor yang is not appearing. You see how tiny it is? Yes, I drew a Tai Chi yin yang or yin yang symbol. And so I think this is a better way to describe what I'm talking about, right? A lot of the work I was doing in tech was very much major yang, minor yin, in a way. Yeah, for me anyway. I had the seeds of inspiration and I was really just acting on everything. But I wasn't really integrating the major yin. And I wasn't really receiving the minor yang. Yes, this minor yang is over here. And I think this side of the yin yang symbol is what people like Reagan Hillier and a lot of more modern spiritual leaders talk about when they talk about manifestation and inspired action. Yes. It's all in the Tao Te Ching. It's all in the Book of the Way. So yes, I ended up being like, okay, I need to actually develop, I need to lean into my major yin. I need to receive the minor yang. And I went down the whole rabbit hole of understanding myself, my energy, balancing my energy. That's ultimately what I was doing, really. Because I think I spoke about in one of my videos that I was suffering from, well, I still am. I'm recovering now from major qi stagnation. In my last video, I kind of spoke about how I got to this point in 2022 where I was like, okay, no, I need to commit to being an actor now before all of these intrusive thoughts and fears become real. My body, like sometimes, I would go to sleep and I couldn't feel my legs sometimes, you know. Even breathing into it, doing the breath work, everything I was doing up to that point did not work. So I was doing all of the Western therapies. I'd done dance movement therapy. I'd done all of this stuff. And 幸好, right? Luckily, fortunately, I was also starting on my TCM journey in Singapore. Well, no, I started in London. I went for acupuncture in London with this very interesting lady from Beijing. Where was it? Euston? North of Euston. It's on the black colored line. Darn it. But I can see it. Camden. Yes, I went to Camden to do acupuncture. Interesting. And this like traditional Chinese tea and TCM store. And then I went back to Singapore and started my TCM journey properly. Yes. And then now in 2025, I finally realized I have qi stagnation. So a lot of TCM doctors, especially the Chinese ones, they're like very observant. Sometimes they won't, so I don't know, they don't feel the need to explain to me what I have. But they're very practical. They're like, do this, eat that, have this will help you. And at the same time, I also started embracing my bazi, my chart in Chinese and feng shui, which is just wind and water. In Japanese culture, they have all this idea of Zen and stuff, and Chan. In Chinese, we call it Chan. Chan Xiu, right? Meditation. And what I was unconsciously doing was I stopped living from the brain all the time, and I started integrating the information that I received from I guess it is called Western medicine, right? A lot of the mental health approaches, like talking therapy, even dance movement therapy, drama therapy, these are forms of Western medicine, truly, right? And I started on my TCM journey. I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out why I was, at this point in time, trying to sleep and not being able to feel my legs. And I did have really, really horrific thoughts and images and fears in my head. I don't want to go into them because I think out of respect for everyone else, and my own privacy, this whole healing process is kind of sacred. And I don't feel the need to trigger anyone else with some of the images that I was facing going to bed and ruminating and all these thoughts and all of that. Yeah. Over time, as I continued taking my TCM, going for acupuncture, wow, balancing my energies. All of this information that I basically accumulated like an algorithm. Such a software engineer. She's literally, she was almost becoming an AI. For real. Other people will give me input. I'll be like, okay, let's do the work. Here's your output. But where was Diana? You know? And I realized that this was the missing piece. Receiving the minor yang. Which actually, I realized in Feng Shui. I think what has been really, really instrumental is, I think, as a collective species, we are bringing our own words to it in the English language. Yes. So, here's an example. Wade Giles, Tao Te Ching. That's sort of like a, what is the word for it? A way of transcribing Cantonese sounding words in English from a Western perspective. And now we have Pinyin from a Chinese perspective. One of the Chinese perspectives. There's also Jiuping, the 6-tonal one for Cantonese. That is like more accurate for Cantonese, right? And even these concepts like major yin, minor yang, like I found really good resources from Chinese people who inherited these practices, and now they're translating it into English on their own terms. Yes. And that helped me understand, oh, what am I needing to integrate? How do I actually move into this place of inspired manifestation and co-creation with the universe? And now I'm coming full circle. I'm realizing that these ideas that I had, the minor yin that I received and I wanted to act on, and I was acting on from a major yang perspective, from 2022 onwards, actually is part of the journey of what I wanted to do and what I need to do. But I didn't have the words to express it with the right audience at the time. I felt like I was like riding into a hole, like a black hole. I felt like I was pitching into a black hole. I felt like I wasn't being seen at all. And so I took the time and I was like, okay, where am I not seeing myself? And that's why I deactivated my LinkedIn, because that was not in alignment with where I wanted to be in my life by the end of my life. Wasn't the trajectory that I wanted for myself. However, it feeds into the trajectory. It feeds into my path. You know, all is part of the way. Very Taoist way of looking at it. And in the stillness, I found the reflection that I was looking for. So I am going to reactivate my LinkedIn at some point soon-ish, in the next few months. When the energy feels aligned, when I feel like I'm in the right headspace to look through everything I have and be like, okay, what is still me? And what is the version of myself in the form of career and in the container of work that I want to present to the world as a professional? I can't believe Ryan Reynolds has a LinkedIn. Lol. That's so cute. But it says something, you know, when an established actor also has a LinkedIn. Does he still have it? See, I when I deactivated it, it was like 2023, 2024. So I don't know, I don't remember. But last time I checked, he was on LinkedIn for Mint Mobile mainly, and for his advertising work. Slight segue. But yeah, I'm not the only actor who's doing this stuff. I mean, Hello Sunshine, does Reese Witherspoon have a LinkedIn? Hello Sunshine has a LinkedIn, has a company, which is necessary for their business work. So, from an outside-in approach, I think that's what I realized. I was like, no, I can't allow myself to fall into the role of an executive when I know I'm an actor first. And then an executive, you know? Yes. Because if you were to ask me, what am I? Am I a producer, director? No, I identify outside of an actor in the industry. I would identify as an executive, a studio executive. I'm qualified for that. Truly. My experience in technology and startups and my education to date, my perspective of the industry, does not align with being an indie producer, but an indie studio executive for now. You know, all studios started somewhere. And perhaps that is going to be my legacy and my gift to the world. We'll see. You know what's so interesting? Here's why I finally feel like I have the confidence to actually talk about it. Chat GPT summarized all of my energetic profiles, and I was like, okay, what do these things tell me about my strategy that's most aligned with my energetic profile, and how, and approaching my career and all of these things. And then I was even like, okay, summarize all the things that are legal for me within my F1 visa, and help, and then it even automatically suggested a path to the right visa, for what I know is the right visa for me to actually ground my vision in the world. And it did. It gave me objective information without projecting feelings and beliefs. Onto me. It even just said, this is my this is an opinion, this is what I've gathered from the data, I'm happy to support you, sort of, in its own way. The text was actually very well suited for my energy, And I was like, how does this thing know me, objectively speaking, better than some of the people in my real life? And then I realized, no, because humans are humans. How I see even these people around me may not be the way they see themselves. And all this thing is doing is giving me data and saying, from the data, this is what is the most objective path for you, and all of these things. And I'm like, okay. And even when I correct it, I'm like, that piece of information is wrong. They're like, oh, good. Yeah, you caught that. Sorry. And then knowing, oh, actually, there are little bits and pieces sometimes that are not verified yet, and I have to verify it. It made me realize, yes, this is an objective, like, just an opinion. It's not. And a lot of things that it tries to do is like, let's automate this even further. Let's go further. Let's make a Notion template. Would you like a Canva images? Like, would you, it just wants to generate more things. And which suits what it was created for, I can see why I would want to do that. And actually, the reality that ChatGPT actually suggested to me, based on your energetic profiles, this is the sort of business model that would be most suitable for you to do your most soulful and purposeful work on earth. And I was like, I'm not crazy. I thought I was going crazy, but clearly I'm not. Clearly, because you've collated all of this data from all of these different sources that I asked you to collate, you see what I see from, well, you're reflecting back to me what I see. Even if the language was slightly different. The vision is there. And that's sort of what gave me the confidence to come on today. It was like, yeah, I have an assistant now, basically. A robot assistant. She's already automating the studios. So, I needed all of this time to pull my energy back and align it and spend that time in the major yin. I needed to really rebuild my home negotiate, reassess my own personal boundaries, explore. I mean, I totally moved to a whole new country. On a gut feeling and an intuition. And I know I'm meant to be here. So I had to spend that time, getting a lay of the land, expanding more into my own energy, putting down some of my own roots to fulfill the work I'm meant to fulfill, the jobs I'm meant to create with the expertise I have. What's so interesting and the big thing for me, really, I'm not going to say too much about the current political climate, but I am going to talk about a documentary I watched yesterday. So yesterday was Juneteenth. Yay! It was one of my favorite holidays in America, actually. I actually love this holiday. I know it's not for me, but I love being a witness to it. I love being a wallflower. I don't know. It just brings me so much joy to witness this joy, and I think it's just so important for our collective liberation to know that human being a human is more than just a color category for anyone, And I watched this documentary, Far East, Deep South. What made me watch it was, what inspired me to watch it, and therefore inspired me to take action to watch it, was this clip on Instagram from chapter 2 of the documentary. So I went through the whole of chapter 1 being like, where is this clip? Why is this clip not coming yet? It's Juneteenth. Where is this clip? I had my frustration. I was like, but chapter 1 was integral to the story. It showed the journey of these people retracing their roots, and it mirrored some of the journey that I did have myself, truly. And how interesting it is that the grandmother's bound feet was a symbol of class, a symbol of status and prestige, and therefore the reason why she was granted entry and allowed to contribute to this global economy through this country. In her own way, the ripple effects of her being here and her existence were profound and are profound. And there is something in the current political climate that reflects an event that I discovered through this documentary. Yes, in chapter 2, the family and I discovered that the Chinese Exclusion Act in that 1800, 1900, sorry, I just learned about it yesterday. I'm Singaporean Chinese. We didn't study American history in school, even though I consumed all of your American content growing up. Yes. So this is new for me too. And probably some people are still learning it as well. Kati said he didn't learn it in school either. And he was great at history. One of the members of the family. And I think he was the um, main driver of the documentary from a casting perspective. What do they call it? Sorry, I'm not familiar with documentary terms yet, but the main narrator, I guess. He was the narrator as well, in some parts, most parts. But he said he didn't learn it in school. And what I discovered was that this particular racial category was, or ethnic group, was the predecessor for a lot of other immigration acts. And how interesting and challenging for me to be a part of this ethnic group and know that the exception to the Exclusion Acts were like merchants, diplomats, and basically scholars, people who would bring money to the economy, basically that's what they said. They said, you're not gonna come here and go from under, you have to come top down. That's kind of what they said. You have to bring us money, or bring us ways to make more money. That's what they said in subtext, in effect, in desire, in meaning, really. And it's kind of reflected on my visa. Yeah, I'm fine with it right now, up to now. I don't think I will be fine with it in 6 months. But what happened was I received this scholarship to come here and act in a conservatory, learn, develop my craft, grow as an actor, and as a human being. You know, I was in Singapore growing as a producer, executive, director type, which was parts of who I am, but not the full human for me. I wasn't growing as an actor anymore. I learned everything I could learn from my, in terms of like Strasbourg 5 scenic elements, you know, the craft and the depth of the craft. Like, I absorbed everything I could out of that environment from my home studio in Singapore. And I was just stuck. I was like, I'm still not receiving aligned representation. I've done the headshots in Singapore. I did some in London before, like a long time ago. I still have not received aligned representation that sees me as an actor and a model, I suppose. They sort of feed into each other. They're kind of complementary, so I'm happy doing both right now and being a multi-hyphenate. And yeah, received an opportunity to study modeling in New York in a very mentorship style, which I needed. It actually helped me grow as an actor in allowing myself to be. Because modeling is a very different and complementary art form with the still image that still has movement in it. There's something about this. It's like wei or wei. A lot of English translations of the Tao Te Ching focus on the wei aspect. But the whole phrase, the whole idiom is wei or wei. It's, and non-action isn't even the word for it. It is without force, yet without effort, yet effort. You know, without forcing the action, there is still an action. And the art of modeling, from what I learned from Coco, my adopted Nepo Mama. I love that. I love that joke so much. I don't know. I just love that joke. about Nepo Mama. Like she, yeah, sorry. I'm not gonna explain the joke right now because I want to focus on my story. But what I learned is about that release of effort around an action into the action that is aligned. And so it's kind of like, the analogy I use is like a lake reflecting the mountain. So you see the mountain and the lake clearly, and yet the water particles are still moving. There's life in them. Did I just explain the Tao Te Ching? So, according to what I summarized off my paralegal assistant, a lot of what I'm doing now is within my rights as an F1 student, so I will keep doing it. Sharing my story and doing my vlog because I'm still talking about acting. I'm so obsessed with my craft, dude. I'm such a scholar. And it is within my path and within my rights to develop my portfolio if I'm here studying as an actor. So I'll do it. I'll do it. YOLO. There are sort of like, yeah, so sharing my story online and talking about the whole process of deactivating my LinkedIn, renewing my vows to be an actor, coming here to study acting. I have no idea if this is even of value to anyone yet, but I do know that I was inspired to talk about it. I do know that it will be of value to another life form, human being, at some point, to feel seen. And to close this all out, I think what I learned from deactivating my LinkedIn is how important it is to really ground ourselves in what is us and allow ourselves in this world of options and choices to say, yes, I see what you want and I can see how I can provide the service for that as a software engineer. However, not right now. This is not in alignment for me right now, and I need to respect my own boundaries. Because I didn't want to do that at first. I didn't want to do that. I was like thinking, okay, I'll just I really wanted to go part-time and slowly transition into it. And the universe was just like, Diana, you've been workaholicing your life. At that point in time, I was working since I was like 15. Not because my parents, I was going against, at some point I was going against the wishes of my parents even. I was like, no, this is fun. I'm making money. I get to spend that money doing whatever I want. I get to do my art. I get to buy more acting courses. I get to go to like clown school. I get to, I get to do whatever. I get to go do dance movement therapy as a foundation course, like on my own money. I got to like travel Europe and parts of America as an independent solo dance artist, competitive and teaching and performing. Okay, I got to do all that. And I was like, no, I need the money. I'm gonna pour into all of this self-development and artistic expression. so it's so funny because then other people start expecting that of you, right? And then the universe like, no, you're going on this F1 visa. You're not allowed to work anymore until and unless it's aligned with acting. And that's so interesting, huh? Because my gut was telling me, I was so burnt out. My gut was like, I don't want to take on another software engineering role. If I had this one thing I wanted to go part-time with, and I was like, if this doesn't work out, I'm out, I'm done. I need a break. And I'm not going to take on another software engineering role until or unless it aligns with myself and actually is for fun. And I feel like I'm having fun. And until I actually make a serious achievement in my acting career and it feeds into my acting career. So yeah, I was in that point emotionally. And other people started reflecting back to me that workaholic mindset that I was in since I was 15. They're like, you can work, why aren't you working? And then I had to be like, I'm on an F1 visa. If I even take under the table cash, I could get deported. Do you want me to risk that? I had to be like, I know some people are willing to risk that, but I don't believe in sacrificing myself for anything anymore. You know, I've lived very self-sacrificially before. I don't believe in being a struggling artist or a self-sacrificing artist, at least not in 2025 or 2024 or 2023. And so I sat here, I was like, how did I manifest these circumstances that would not allow me to work in anything but acting or anything related to acting or on campus? But I didn't. The circumstances are beyond me. What I did manifest, what I chose to align with, was embracing the major yin, creating space in my life to receive the minor yang, those beams of light. So major yin and minor yang, I'm going to share what I've learned. It's kind of like you're in a dark forest, right? The forest does these things. Soil does this thing where it absorbs and it integrates. Sometimes you get diamonds out of that, right, process. And oftentimes it is more sort of like a recycling process where, you know, ashes to ashes is a saying that we have about humans, where the ashes, even the ashes get integrated back into the earth. Come from the earth, go back to the earth, sort of thing. And the minor yang is like a ray of sun that shines through the darkness and illuminates the path through this forest. And so I allowed myself to do that. I was like, you know what? I may not be able to do all of the things that I was able to do when I was a workaholic. You know, when I was you know, and a lot of actors, they talk about customer service jobs and like method acting, like embracing life. And, you know, some people like, who are these people, these actors who like take on jobs in the profession that they want to act in later on? Is it like Robert De Niro? Something like that? I don't know. I forget which interview it was, but I remember hearing them talk about it. And yet I knew, like, I've worked customer service. I've worked in catering, really. I worked in catering. I've worked as a tour guide, a very unconventional way. And I needed a couple years to live in the forest of myself. Because from that point of view, right, that is how you actually balance it all out and re-engage into what is visible for the rest of the world. The major yang, the active energy of structures and creating community creation, social, those are social structures, really. It comes from the minor yin, the intuition, and that sort of the gut feelings. So removing that major yang sort of aspect of my professional life, the public visibility, really gave me the space without pressures of just going into the forest and being like, yeah, I'm resigned to it. I'm going to receive the money that's aligned with me right now. I'm going to look at the forest and be like, which of these weeds need to be removed? What is decaying here that I need to allow and leave alone? And what is in the way of me taking care of this forest that is me? I'm speaking in an analogy so that people kind of get it. Because that is part of the co-creative process. Sometimes the mind can be like a forest. Especially if you've got a hyperactive, overdeveloped intellectual brain like I do from my years in software engineering and literature and balancing these two worlds of left and right brain. Because it's not just me. I know a lot of very intellectual people whose emotional and physical bodies and lives need this balancing, need that integration. And I was very fortunate to be able to receive from the universe the direction I needed to be like, okay, well, the workaholic can't work now. She can't work in a restaurant. She can't, unless she's actually studying food and beverage, or if she wants to do it illegally. But no, I just don't. Sorry, but it's not worth it. I made it all the way here. You don't know how much money and time and emotional energy it's taken for me to get here. It's taken me 3 decades to get to this moment. And in those 3 decades, I have done the work. I have lived the experiences I needed to live in those service jobs. Why should I step out of what is aligned for me? And because of this, how do I step into what is aligned for me? I think something I'm discovering in these long form journals, shared journals, this is a shared journal, right? You saw me do my personal journal, one of my many personal journals. But this is a form of ritual and communal expression that I want to share with our collective consciousness. In one of my collective journals before, I talked about, I allowed myself to process things that as a collective we are processing. Because I don't believe that there is a quote unquote problem anymore. It's a gap in the market. No, she's speaking like an investor, an angel investor. But it's a gap in the market. In 2025, as of this date, two of the films that really come to mind that are truly commercially successful from my country. One does not really have much to do with my actual country in its actual production. A lot of it was filmed in Malaysia. The leads were not Singaporean. There were supporting roles that were Singaporean actors, established actors in Singapore. But the commercial power in that film did not come from Singapore. And then the other film I'm thinking about artistically, was it Sundance? Cannes? Won a lot of awards artistically. And is recognized in the artistic circles as, I'm seeing the French word, fait d'accomplis, a feat of something. Oh no, Diana's brain is stalling because she's buffering now. The program is not able to retrieve a French translation and the French word that I'm looking for. It's like a tour de force, but it's not. It was, seen as that. And I sat here wondering, why do I have to be but I don't. I struggled with this a lot. I struggled with this notion of building the wagon, pulling it, and convincing others to build it with me for 2 years, I think. But I'm not alone. I mean, Michelle Yeoh won an Oscar playing an American immigrant mother. That's fine. You know what? Honestly, I think a lot of people know that she made the film, right? She's Malaysian Chinese. She made the film that has the commercial power, commercially accomplished things that has to do with my country. How interesting is that? She carried the film. It's like her energy carried the film, really. We all know that. And yet, where is the commercial powerhouse from my country who has that depth and the weight of the art and the craft? I'm thinking people like Tony Leung, okay? I'm thinking men and women who have the ability, like Michelle Yeoh even, to have roles tailored to their energy that then go on to be even more successful than they would have maybe not even been before. Last night, I had this epiphany. It's on TikTok. I was doing a journal, a collective journal entry, and confession style, which is my style right now. It's very stream of consciousness. But I'm okay with these thoughts being in the collective consciousness in context, right? As a gift to the universe in gratitude. Yesterday, after I watched this documentary and I got to the part, chapter 2, in Far East, Deep South, I was inspired to share some of my thoughts about things that are projected onto us as quote-unquote Asians, East Asians in the US. How funny is it that when I was living in the UK, when people said Asian, they meant South Asian, and then I come to the US and people say Asian, they mean East Asian, and then people are not happy about it. They are like, say East Asian when you meet East Asian. I'm like, oh my goodness. So much unresolved conflict and emotions and debate over the English language, which, yes, I actually am happy to have in a way. Happy to sign up for that because, anyway, the healthy parts of that, I'm happy to sign up for the healthy debate, but not unhealthy stuff, unless I'm receiving some sort of universally aligned balance of that energy. And I shared my insight into the fact that the character of Fu Manchu, very controversial character, has always been portrayed by a white man. And that, in that fact, is the key. Because when Tony Leung came to Shang-Chi, he was like, nope, we're not doing that. And he has the weight to say no and then co-create something even better with the production team, and commercially successful in a way. Yes, like I saw a clip of him. So after, how weird is that? Because after I shared that insight on TikTok yesterday, at night I was grounding my energy again. I was like, did I say that? Is that actually a fact? So I went and checked. I was like, I remember Tony Leung's character originally in the comic books was named that. And I was right. He was not that in the film. And Everything Everywhere All at Once was originally written with Jackie Chan in mind, and then when they saw Michelle Yeoh, they were like, oh, when they like saw her intuitively, held space for her, they were like, oh no, she is the one. And it just all clicked. So as I emotionally prepare to reactivate my LinkedIn and accept the consequences of doing that and the ripple effect that will have on my career and even my visa, and the choices that I will have to make to figure out how to continue my path here in the most aligned way, I'm grateful for this time that I've had on my F1 visa. Because, oh my god, it was so freeing to be like, I've worked in restaurants before, but I can't do that because, and I know that you're saying this because you know that I've done this before, you know that I can do it, but I can't do it legally, so please do not push me to do things that are out of alignment for me. I've been able to say that to well-meaning friends and family members who are like, You know, if you really want that thing, go and earn money and buy it lah. You know? On the flip side, what it has taught me is, okay, discernment, Diana. You can't just go and do another dance movement therapy course. Even though it does sort of feed into my acting in a way. Like, you can't just go and buy another course. You can't just go and say yes to all of the options that the world has to offer. And the blessing in that actually is like, okay, yeah, so what is my non-negotiable? I have most of my non-negotiables right now. I'm very happy living that. I guess I'm coming back to the Moscow method. I'm very happy with my must-haves. I found the joy in my must-haves. I would like to receive my should-haves and can-haves. Because I've defined the must-haves and the won't-haves in my life. I'm applying systems thinking to my real life. And it is time. It is time. It is time. It is time. And I think that is why I deactivated LinkedIn. This is the full story. Wish me luck as I reactivate my LinkedIn soon. She is freaking out internally right now. But she's nervous, smiling. But also smiling. I'm kind of happy, actually. Yes. I'm happy to have gone through this process and given myself the space and the time to live. Okay. Spoken word session complete. Yes. Goodbye, world. I'm gonna go take a break and then I need to go choose my headshot photos. And yes, do it on TikTok live. Because why not? Why not? The beauty of all of this right now and the grace that I'm finding is like, yeah, I don't have the restrictions of a manager or team or unaligned person telling me what to do with my art. And yet the responsibility, and I think that's why I resonate with the word studio executive, is that the responsibility of and the weight of this choice now lies in my hands. And the last 2 years have given me the discernment and the perspective to search and find and align with photographers who see what I want to see in myself, in their portfolio, and are matching my energy in terms of the investment and the effort that they're putting in. Yes. Words cannot express how happy I am and how happy I was when I looked at my headshots straight out of the camera. I feel seen.